Hi everybody, this is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. I have with me once again Synth from Skycoin, and I just got to say I so enjoy my conversations with Synth because Synth is an absolute riot, and he doesn't hold back. He does not hold back, and he's not going to hold back in this conversation. We're going to be talking about gold, silver, Bitcoin, Skycoin, the cryptocurrency space. And now, before I introduce him, I want to ask you that you join my Telegram group. Links in the description below. Also, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT. And if you are watching this on YouTube, shame on you. Come over to BitTube, where I post my videos first and where you can earn tube coins. And this is because of YouTube shadow banning and deplatforming and censorship of alternative voices.
Bitcoin, the best money we've ever had. With a different kind of money comes a different kind of card. A metal card, powered by crypto. Every time you spend, you get 3% back instantly. Want more? We've got that too. Don't like fees? Neither do we. How about these perks? The future is here. Reserve yours now.
Hey, Sin, thank you so much for making yourself available.
Really great. How are you surviving over there? Did you die yet? Are your neighbors dead? Everyone dead?
No,
like the body is like piled up outside
Nobody's dead. Nobody's dead. You can. There's a thing that you have to wear.
You can't say that. That violates WHO guidelines. What do you mean?
Well, I may be violating WHO guidelines because when you go into shops now in the UK, you have to wear a mask. The employees don't have to wear a mask. They're in the shops all day long. They don't have to wear a mask. If you go into a shop to buy something, you've got to wear a mask. But you can also self-exempt. You can download a card or a leaflet from the internet which says that for medical reasons, I'm not required to wear a mask. It's just so full of holes. But that's going to be another conversation. That is going to be another conversation. What we're going to talk about, like I said, is what's happening.
I heard if you go outside, you're killing grandmother. So it's save your grandma, stay indoors. Don't leave. Don't kill someone. Save a life. Stay indoors.
Save a grandma. Stay indoors. Don't earn any money. Don't socialize. Keep your kids indoors. Don't teach them so they learn how to socialize. But anyway, Synth, anything you want to say apart from that? Just to introduce yourself.
We've just been, this is this new my office, and we just finished our renovation. I got the concrete floor issue, and I don't know, talking about that for like a year. And we just got the Skycoin coinhours listed on an exchange, and we just had like a massive pump, and Skycoin went up 40%, and then so it's just like stuff's back to normal. We're going back into a Bitcoin bubble, and Bitcoin I think hit over 11,000. I don't know if it's at 12,000 yet. So we're going, everything's just getting really fast right now, and I'm just getting ready for the war mobilization. It's like altcoin World War III over here, and we're just getting ready to staff up and get all these products out, and it's gonna. And I don't know, people who know me from when we went through the last bubble, that was like my hair was falling out and it was turning gray, and I felt like by the end of the bubble I felt like I was dying. And then I had a 2-year break basically because we had the winter, and now we're going back into it's ridiculous. So so everyone has been following Bitcoin and the altcoins for a while, and it's been following us. They know this whole thing, and they can probably imagine what I'm going through right now. It's just crazy.
Yes. Well, let's have a look. I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to show you CoinMarketCap on the day of recording. So this is it's gone down $10,751.01. It's broken a massive trend line from the high of December 2017. I'm not going to draw it, but from there down to here, it's just popped up above that. Now, where do you
asking what's going on? Where's Bitcoin going? And what's happened is the U.S. government previously they were printing up it took them a year to print up $1 trillion. Now they're printing up $1 trillion a month in bailout funds, and pretty soon they're going to be printing up $1 trillion a week. And a lot of that money is ending up one way or another into gold and into silver and into Bitcoin. And I think that at the end of this, Bitcoin's going to be over 60,000. And I think very briefly, one Bitcoin could be 120,000, 150,000. I don't think it'll stay at those levels. I think it might settle probably around 60 or 80,000 US dollars. But, you know, just the amount of money that's being printed right now for various reasons. And, you know, honestly, there's a lot of bullshit going on. I never imagined in 100 years that they were going to take down the stock market and take down the economies with this virus. And, you know, I thought they were going to do like a very slow inflation and that this was just going to keep going on for a while. But some, you know, stuff happened and Trump and there's different groups fighting each other actually. And, you know, you can't really even talk about the people in Washington, D.C., because the media says, oh, that's disinformation or that's a conspiracy theory. And you see this guy and he gets arrested and he gets thrown in jail and you talk about him and they say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. But wait, but what about this court case? Oh, that court case is a conspiracy theory, blah, 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 blah. You know, and you know, you have sealed, during the last bubble, I met a lot of DC lawyers that were doing legal stuff in crypto. And they're telling me what's going on in DC. And it's basically like a civil war. And you have, and I can't even talk about all the details, but what's happening is ridiculous. And you can imagine, because of this virus, these people are printing up trillions of dollars of stimulus funds. And you can imagine that there's not a small number of people that would want control over that money. You know, the people who decide where the $10 trillion, the $1 trillion over here, the $3 trillion over there. You look at Bill Gates and he might have 50 billion or 10 billion, you know, or 100 billion or whatever, right? And these guys are slushing around trillions of dollars per month into this asset or that asset. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. And I can't even talk about it. And I think they'd delete the video if I even mentioned this, but there's, you know, I think if Trump gets reelected, I think a lot of people are going to go to prison. And I don't think it's necessarily, you know, personally because Trump's a good guy. I think these guys should have been thrown in prison 20 years ago. If there was a law and they were enforcing in the US, they'd be in prison already, like 20 years ago. I think Trump's going after them because they pissed him off. They got really arrogant. They, you know, they just did so many criminal things, one thing after another, and they never got called out. They never got arrested. And no one ever said, you can't do that. And so they just got really arrogant. And then they have the president of the US and attacking him. So
are you referring to the Russia collusion? The people behind it, or are there others as well?
Okay. So basically, here's the context for the Russian collusion. Clinton lost the election, and they wanted to create an excuse why, and they said it was WikiLeaks. And what happened was the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, their campaign had documents leaked. And those documents, they say, were stolen by a Russian hacker. But other people say that the documents were brought out on a USB thumb drive from someone within the Democratic National Convention who was just disgusted with the corruption that they discovered. So so after this leak came and WikiLeaks came out, Clinton lost the election basically because of WikiLeaks and because the DNC servers were hacked and certain documents were distributed to a lot of different people, like what she said, the Goldman. So she said this to these guys, and then she went to these other guys and said the opposite, and they leaked her speeches, and they leaked a whole bunch of nasty things that basically tanked her election campaign and had donors pull out. And so a lot of people, and then they had this thing called Guccifer 2.0, and they said, oh, the Russians hacked it. There's a guy, what is his name? There's this guy, he was head of the NSA. He was
Bill Binney.
I think that's probably the guy. He came out and he said, look at the timestamps of these files. He said that the file was a FAT32 file, and the timestamp of the files that they were created at shows the file download speed. You take the file, this file got copied, then this file, then this file. If you take the time the file was created, you can calculate the download speed. And he says this speed that these files were downloaded at is a thumb drive. It's a USB thumb drive. And the file format is FAT32. So it was copied off a USB thumb drive. And there are people that believe that Seth Richards, who was murdered, I think it was Seth Richards, some guy who was shot in the back, they said he was robbed, but they didn't steal his wallet. And, you know, and then Clinton sent out this email saying, we need to make an example because we don't want to have this happen again. So, you know, this guy got shot, dropped dead, you know, said it was a robbery, but they didn't take his wallet, and he was shot in the back. So he sees some guys that pull up in a car, and he starts running, and they just shot him in the back and left him dead. And then Clinton sends out an email saying, we need to make an example out of these people. We can't let blah, 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 blah. You know, like make an example. Even if it wasn't him, we need to make an example, is what she said, you know, or one of her people on her campaign say. So, you know, then after they lost the election, they tried to say it was the Russians, and the Russians did it. And So
let me just add something. First off, I just want to apologize to everybody because I did say we were going to talk about Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies and gold and silver, right? But I don't want to constrain your flow, Synth, right? We're just going to go with it as the conversation naturally evolves. There were recently declassified documents, testimony given in secret by people like Susan Rice, James Clapper, and also the guy who was the CEO of CrowdStrike. And they all testified under oath that they had no evidence whatsoever that the Russians hacked. Now, the mainstream that the Russians hacked the DNC servers. They had no evidence. That's what they said in private on oath, and in public, and what the mainstream media has been saying, the absolute opposite. And we just recently had that here because there was a report that's saying that the Russians interfered in Brexit. And I don't know if I've ever told you, Synth, I voted for Brexit, right? I want out of the European Union, want independence and democracy, right?
Tax and your CO2 tax and your
tax. I just want out. I just want out of the European Union. It's gonna collapse anyway. But there we just had this report, and the government have been chastised because the report says we didn't see or seek any evidence that the Russians interfered in the Brexit election. And everybody's going, oh, you didn't seek it, you didn't seek it, you didn't seek it. Well, missing out the bit, well, we didn't see any either. There wasn't any. Anyway, go on. So I just wanted to say that.
This stuff is mostly bullshit. And there was a guy, he was head of the intelligence agency, and I think like CIA or something, I think Trump fired him. And these people are leading a revolt to basically overthrow the US president. It's the Soros. So if you look, they had this person who was an anonymous source leaked information that Trump got elected because Russian hackers. Oh my God, Russian hackers elected Trump. What? You know, and then who's the anonymous source? And it turns out like it was the son of Soros. So the son of Soros goes to this CIA guy, and then they quote this anonymous CIA guy who was also being paid by Soros, not Soros, but like the DNC, not necessarily Soros, quoting we have an anonymmus source of information. We have an expert at the CIA who has an anonymous source of information who says that Russia, and it's this guy who's the son of Soros, and then Soros just donated $200 million to Think Blue to arrange these BLM protests. So people think that everyone, you know, racism's bad. Police shouldn't kill anyone. They shouldn't kill blacks. They shouldn't be beating the shit out of, you know, they shouldn't be doing this stuff. They shouldn't be shooting people's dogs. You know, there's a lot of stuff they shouldn't be doing that they do that needs to be cleaned up. But they make this issue, and they basically, if you donate money to BLM, to Black Lives Matter, it goes to this company called Think Blue. And Think Blue is the Biden campaign. So you think you're donating money to help blacks being abused by the police, and it's horrible, and you're actually just supporting Biden. And then Biden comes out and he says, if you don't vote for Biden, you're not black. You might be white. If you're white, you're a racist. You're white. You have white sin. You're a racist, and your ancestors are enslaved, and you were responsible for the Holocaust, and you're white, so you need to, you know, like, you have white sin. You have white guilt. You need to atone for your white sin by voting for Biden. And if you don't vote for Biden, you're not black. If you're a black person and you don't vote for Biden, you're white, and white is bad. White is racist. You know, if you're white, you're a Nazi. If you don't vote for Biden, you're a Nazi. And you have to, you know, and they keep drilling this into people's heads until these CEOs of these companies are like getting down on their knees and like washing the feet of these black protesters to get rid of wash their white sin away.
I actually think it's more devious than that. Because how come, by the way, I'm not a supporter of the BLM movement. I don't think it's a...
Are you recording, or are you, because it doesn't show that's recording in Zoom.
I am recording. It's recording.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a supporter of the BLM movement. I don't think it's an authentic grassroots revolutionary movement to create some sort of positive future for all. I don't. It's corporate funded.
It's the Biden campaign. It's Think Blue. Look where the money is going.
Yeah. And it's supported by the corporations, and it's all over the media. Contrast that with how the Yellow Vest movement was treated, which was genuine grassroots movement, which had a vision for everybody. BLM doesn't. BLM really, really doesn't. Gets my goat.
So there's these people, and they're going to go to prison. They're all corrupt. All the people in DC are corrupt. All of them should be in prison. Clinton should be in prison. This guy Jack Abramoff should be in prison. And I have this guy, he did AML Bitcoin, and I don't want to talk about what happened, but they got charged an SEC thing and Jack Amerbraw, and there's emails actually where Jack Amerbraw is bragging that he's bribed all of these people, and he has this Nancy Pelosi and this person, and I shouldn't name names, I'm gonna get in trouble, but he has emails and he's bragging about how he controls these people, how they're in his pocket, how he's blackmailing them. And this is a guy who went to prison for bribing senators and for, you know, and ridiculous scams. Like he did 100 scams before he went to prison once. And then they just said, shut your mouth and we'll let you out easy and blah, blah, blah. And then he got out and he just kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. And he's shameless. Like he goes and he sends emails to people bragging how, oh, I got this guy in my pocket and I'm blackmailing this guy and I'm going to destroy you, and calling people up, telling them like, you know, sell your company to me or I'm going to kill your dog. And, you know, these people have been, they're criminals, and they've been doing this and shaking people down and doing every nasty thing that you can possibly imagine for so long that they cannot possibly imagine going to prison or having anyone throw anything happening to them. They think that they can just do it and it's okay, and they see everyone else doing it or doing even worse, and they say it's okay, corruption's okay, look at him, look what he did. He said, oh, I only stole $10 million, he stole $1 billion, and he's not in prison, so why should I go to prison for stealing 10 billion or 10 million, you know? So this is the kind of thinking that these people have, and they just, it's a cesspool and it's a swamp. And these people, I don't think they're going to go to prison because they broke the law, because all of them are doing it. They're going to prison because they pissed off Trump, and he's personally going after them because they just got too arrogant. They got crazy. And what I saw actually, I think that there's two things in play. One is that I think Trump basically nationalized the Federal Reserve under the coronavirus bill. Remember, people have been trying to audit the Fed for decades so that the Government Accountability Office can see where the money is going. So you have these people printing up hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars, and where's the money going? And they tried to find out where the bailout money from 2008 went, and they said, oh, it's only 8 billion. And then they find out, oh, it's actually 28 billion. And it's not even 28 billion or 28 trillion. They said it's only $8 trillion publicly. But then they actually on the side here had 28 trillion, but they said, oh, it was loans, so we didn't have to report that. And then that number isn't really the real number because there's other money, but we don't even talk about that because we're not obligated to report it. So the government, Ron Paul has been trying forever to get a bill so that the federal government could see how much money was being printed and where it was going. And they said, oh, you can't do that. You can't see where the money is going. You can't even see how much we're printing. You know, it would be Nazism if, you know, we let you see how many, you know, what we were doing with all this money, right? So Trump basically had the Federal Reserve guy fired, put his guy in, even though he didn't have the authority to do that officially. And under this coronavirus bill, he says that they have, since there's an emergency, that he has, the person that's appointed is able to oversee the emergency money. And so he says that the Fed money that is being printed up as an emergency response to the coronavirus is under his authority, under some, you know, act or some blah, 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 blah. So he's trying to seize power from the Federal Reserve, from the, and this money, a lot of it, if you look, like Biden was responsible for this coup in Ukraine, and Soros was involved. And I think they almost appointed Soros like head of the central bank in Ukraine after this new government came in after these protests. So you have these people, and you know, and it's a lot of people, and I don't want to go into the names, but you have like ex-head of an intelligence agency, you have people who are head of the Democratic National Convention, you have people really high up in the Republican Party who are basically the same as the Democrat. They're all the same, both parties are the same, they're all buddy-buddy. And you have people that were involved in wars in Afghanistan and Libya and Iraq, and you had people that under Obama controlled huge amounts of money. Like Bill Gates might have $100 billion, right? But these guys were controlling slush funds of trillions of dollars that were completely unaccounted for. And in that, I'm sure there was some laundering, and some guy was grabbing money and giving contracts to us. You know, there was some dirty stuff that happened because there was no accountability of that money. And now Trump comes in and he wants to audit that, right? So you can see that a lot of these people, and then these people, some of that money, even when Trump was president, what I saw and suspect was a lot of that money was actually being going to, you know, the government prints up money over here, it goes to the Fed, it goes here, it goes to this NGO, and then it's used to fund riots in the United States against the standing president. And do you think he's going, that's treason, you know, that's, you know, if you were the president, the first thing you would say is, well, you know, these guys should be executed. You know, if Trump, if he throws them in prison for 2 years, would be a nice guy. Like what they did was just so crazy and insane, and you know, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And so I think that if Trump gets elected and he appoints his prosecutor, a special prosecutor gets approved in his second term, I'm 100% sure that at least some of these people are going to go to jail. And so they're fighting, and they're going to other countries. They're going to China, they're going to Saudi Arabia, they're going to different countries, trying to get support and money from these people overseas to basically overthrow the elected president of the United States. And it's crazy. It's crazy. This is a coup. And so, for instance, if Soros goes and he gives $200 million to protests, and they say, oh, Black Lives Matter, but that money is actually going to Think Blue, which is actually going to a campaign, you have to say, is that legal? Can you do that? And if these protests, you know, were burning houses and burning businesses down, and he funded them, is he legally responsible for the damages? You know, so there's a lot of questions. And before, under the previous president, none of these people were going to go to jail, and they know that. They know they could get away with anything. They could get away with murder, bribery, blackmail, whatever it is they were doing. They knew that they were sort of in this group, and you know, everyone was doing it, so it was okay. But then the next president comes in, and how do you know that he's not going to retroactively apply the law to them, for instance? And I think that what's happened is very, 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 it's complicated. I don't want to talk about the details and the names, and it's just, if you look though on Twitter, they just banned 150,000 accounts for QAnon. And I don't actually like QAnon. I think he's too big, and you know, because I talked to a lawyer, he says this guy, and they give me like 20 names, and I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. Then I have to go on Wikipedia and go boom, 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 but I see all their lawsuits, and oh, he raped this guy, and this girl's suing him for $20 million, and his wife stole $20 million from this thing, and his wife set up a nonprofit to take bribes from this guy. And I just like look at this, and I'm like, why are these people in prison? You just put their names in Google, and you're like, what the frick? Like, who the hell are these people? Like, are these people really running our country? And the answer is yes, and they're all corrupt. And it's so basically what's happening though is none of this matters to the people on the street. It doesn't really matter to them whether Trump gets in power or these other guys get in power. I know that if the other guys win and they get rid of Trump, they're going to probably have gangs on the street murder their opposition. Like, these people are going to do a cultural revolution in the United States. It's going to be like under Mao, where the youth rise up and they just start murdering their enemies. It's going to be like Stalin, because at this point, they have to seize control of the media. They have to seize control of the prosecution. They have to annihilate their political opposition and take control over institutions. People have to live in fear of even talking about these people and say, oh, if you talk about them, you're Nazi. That's blah, blah, blah. They have to make it unpopular or dangerous to talk about what they've done, because some of it is just, or else they're going to get kicked out. They can't win elections anymore without rigging the vote, without taking control of the media, so they know they're going to go to prison, and that their companies are going to get, so it's a really bad situation. The U.S. right now is on the verge of almost a civil war. And if you go on the Washington Post, there's this guy called Max Boot, and he has a thing, and it says, we're going to steal the election, and we're going to do whatever we have to do that. And if Trump doesn't accept the fact that we stole the election, his people are going to get on the street with guns, and we're going to have to do a civil war. And he's talking about sending the military out on the street to shoot Trump supporters who are protesting that they stole the election from. And this guy, he's a member of the CFR, and he's a member of the top think tanks in the United States. He's an insider, and they brought him in to write a book about counterinsurgencies, that if we had a civil war in the US, how are we going to fight it? And he said, well, we're going to take the cities with the military, then we're going to send the military out into the rural areas, the areas with the deplorables, the middle class, the people that didn't vote for the right person, and we're going to have the military slaughter them. And that's how we're going to win. That's how you win an insurgency. And it's crazy, but he wrote a book, and he says, if you want to win a civil war, this is how you do it. And that's his strategy. And they say, that's a good strategy. Ha, ha, ha. And you see all these people like reading his book and writing, it's a great strategy. And they're not talking, and he calls it the Malaysian model. And they're not really talking about Malaysia. They're talking about the United States, what's going to happen in the U.S. Like, so these people are crazy. They're just absolutely crazy. It's like Clinton lost the election, and then they promoted a campaign and said, not my president, he's not my president. So these guys over here have one president, and then these guys have the other president. Like, never Trumpers, like, yeah, he's not my president, he's your president. I didn't vote for him. Like, this is stuff that you would, like, imagine in communist China if a newspaper came out and said, she's not my president, I didn't vote for him. Like, they would have like a shot for, causing civil unrest or causing dissension or for being inharmonious. He'd be arrested or shot, right? And in America, having the media and the American corporations and a bunch of foreign oligarchs come in and use money to try to overthrow the American president and a bunch of like harebrained coups is just insane. But that's unimaginable. I couldn't even imagine they're doing this, but that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I know why they're doing it. I know who they are, and I think these people are extremely arrogant. And I've actually seen emails by people like Jack Amobrov and people in what they've written, and the things that they're just crazy. Like, they're on cocaine. Like, they believe that they're invincible and that they're gods, and they can say 2 + 2 is 5, and now 2 + 2 is 5. They don't care what reality is, and they think they have the right to shut people up by force. So they're just completely on this like cocaine binge, and they think they can just put a gun to people's head and tell them what to believe, and that they'll believe it.
So the way I see it, it is like it is gangsters. I've seen this on gangster movies, but the turf is much, much larger. You got Trump and his gangsters over on this side.
And then Clinton and her gangsters.
Yeah, and then you got Clinton and her gangsters on this other side, and they're just squabbling over turf. And us poor little minions, we're just trapped in the middle. We just pause. What the hell is going on? All I want to do is to be able to hang out with my mates and make a decent living and get as much Bitcoin as I can between now and then.
The Chinese government came out in the state media, and they said that the coronavirus was the best way to get rid of Trump. And he says, now's our chance. And China is really pissed about what Trump did. And so I can't say this because it hasn't been confirmed, but I can tell you right now, from what I know, that the Trump campaign is going to come out, and they're going to say that China is supporting Biden. And I think this is going to happen probably sometime before the election, and it's just and supporting the BLM protest. And so you have like Soros saying, I'm giving $200 million to these people. They get the money, and then all these riots start, right? So he's funding riots, and they're going to keep people locked up until 2 weeks before the election. Then they're going to let them, all the restrictions are going to get torn out, and all these people who are locked in their house for 4 months, they're going to rush out onto the street, and they're going to have all this energy, and they're running out, and they're going to be all these protests, and they're going to join the protests. They know, they have experts in psychological warfare that know what happens when you let up a quarantine. In China, they did the quarantine, then they relaxed it, and they had riots break out in some areas, in some cities that the government had to suppress. So they know exactly what's going to happen when so you're going to have the coronavirus one, second wave, we just shut it down. Then suddenly like, it's gone, everyone go out and riot, So this is, if you remember, they eased the lockdown restrictions in the US, and then all these people flooded into the streets for these protests. And it was mostly like white rich people, right? That were like hipsters and, things like that, burning down Walmarts. And it was, there were a bunch of white hipsters that went down to the police station and started trying to set the police station on fire. And it's all these white kids. And I was laughing with rich white kids burning the police station. I was laughing, watching the videos, and I was laughing my ass off. And,
why did the riots happen in China? Was it that people were angry and upset about what had been done to their livelihoods by the lockdown?
If you lock people in their house for 2 weeks or for 2 months, and then you let them go outside now, of course they're going to riot. What are they going to do? The people have a lot of energy. They want to protest. They just they walk around outside. They see a bunch of people. They have a lot of energy. You bottle them up, right? And you shake up the bottle, and then you open the cap, and it goes, "Ooh!" Right? And that's normal. It's just human nature.
Synth, it's only normal if people are pissed off. Otherwise they could come out and celebrate. Hey, let's party. So I think rioting, they must have been pissed off about something.
So, they're locked in their house, so I think that I think that in the U.S., what they're not going to renew the unemployment check. So Trump wants to renew the bonus unemployment check before the election, so everyone's happy. And the other side knows that these people are going to run out of money. I'm in an interview. Okay. These people are going to run out of money basically around September or December, and they're being evicted. People haven't paid their rent for 4 months. They're going to change the law, so they say, oh, you got to pay rent. Coronavirus is over, you got to pay rent. And these people are going to be hit by 5 months of rent at once, or they're going to get evicted. And these people are going to lose their bonus unemployment. The economy is not going to be doing so good because I think we're going to have another market crash in September before it keeps going up again. And I think that we're going to probably have a market crash before the election, it looks like. And I think that, there's a lot of stuff going on. So a lot of different groups just this gang ganged up on that gang, and they're having a little gang warfare. But what does this mean for gold? What does it mean for Bitcoin? And what it means is, first of all, I think Bitcoin will be over 60,000 or 80,000 or 150,000 because they're printing up so much money.
By when?
I think we're all...
By when? In the next year?
I don't know. Maybe 2 years, 3 years, even 4, 5, 6 years. As long as the government is printing up $1 trillion a month, they don't want this crisis to end. If you're printing up $1 trillion, if your crisis is so bad, you can print up $1 trillion a month. They say keep it going as long as you can. $500 million, $6 billion for this vaccine, $8 billion for that vaccine, $120 billion contract tracing over here, $120 billion over there, $500 billion over there, another $500,000 over there. There's so many people making so much money off this. It's basically bullshit.
Yeah.
That they don't want this to end.
So
they want this.
Could you move a bit closer? Move a bit closer. Yeah. Thank you.
So you can imagine these people, and they are money, trillions of dollars are raining from the sky right now, and this is their chance to get some of these $1 trillion.
Synth, you just muted yourself. You're on mute. Can't hear you. Please unmute yourself. Let me see. Okay, that's better.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So you were saying they were getting these trillions of dollars. Now, in the UK, the British government has set aside something like $40 billion for vaccines to buy up enough vaccines for everybody in the UK. That's just the British government, right? Plus also there's the quintillion effect. Like whoever gets the money first with new money, they have the most to gain. So it makes sense what you're saying about like keep it going, because there's more going into the big players' pockets.
So in Britain, the president is not stupid. The president of Britain is actually really smart.
Minister.
These people, the prime minister, who is Boris, or what's
Boris
his name?
Johnson.
Yeah, Boris Johnson. He wanted to do this bill 2 years ago for $600 billion for infrastructure. He says, we're going to build nuclear power plants, we're going to build railroads, we're going to expand our airport, we're going to make Britain the best destination for business and production, and make Britain into a world capital, right? We're going to upgrade our infrastructure. And the Chinese do this. They print up money, they build all this infrastructure, and they make it very comfortable for the businesses. And everyone makes money, the wages go up, it's great. They said, you're nuts, you can't do that. You have to, you can only buy infrastructure by borrowing money from us because you have the government competing now with the private banking cartel. And he was going to do these, and they blocked him from even doing $200 billion. But then when this bullshit happens, they have no problem with him signing a bill giving $600 billion to a vaccine that's probably not even going to work. And in China, the Chinese government came out in the state media and they said, we've been trying to do coronavirus vaccines for 40 years and we haven't had one successful vaccine. And the media admits that if we haven't done this in 40 years or 20 years, and we can't make a vaccine for HIV, how do we even know we're going to have a vaccine in 8 months, right? Or 2 years or 3 years? And Bill Gates says, we need to keep everyone locked down until we have a vaccine. And these people, honestly, they know that there has never been a successful vaccine for any of these viruses. And they know that the effectiveness of the flu vaccine, even though they've been doing it for years, decades, is only like 30, 40%. Some years, the effectiveness of the flu vaccine is only 20%. And they also know that they did this swine flu vaccine and a lot of people had injuries and they had a lot of lawsuits. So they're saying, we're going to release a vaccine. They honestly, they're not going to say this publicly, but if they haven't they don't have any coronavirus vaccines because they haven't been able to produce one in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah, there's no vaccine for HIV, which is a coronavirus. There's no vaccine for SARS-1. There's no vaccine for the cold. Nothing.
China spent $1 billion on this coronavirus vaccine for SARS, and they've been doing that for what was SARS, like 2008, 2004?
Yeah, 10 years ago.
20 years. Yeah, 10, 20 years, and no nothing. They have 10,000 people working on it. So so Bill Gates said, we're only releasing the vaccine if you give us indemnity. So if the government says you can't sue these companies for the injury,
but in the US, that's already the case. Drug companies can't be sued for harm done to vaccines. There's a vaccines compensation board, which I was reading today, has paid out $4 billion. Even though, so the drug companies aren't held liable, the government pays, the taxpayer pays, and they've paid out to the tune of $4 billion.
It's a scam.
Yes.
Everyone knows it's a scam. So Bill Gates did this thing where you go into Africa and they give them the vaccine, and the government agrees that they're going to buy $20 billion of vaccines. So this president, he gets like a payoff, or who the hell knows what they do, but he agrees to do it. And they said, don't worry, you won't have to pay the money. You won't be president in 20 years. So they develop the vaccine, then the government signs a commitment for $20 billion of vaccine, and it's free now, but then they get the money back. And by the time the next guy gets in, it's another health minister. So it's someone else's. So the next guy's gonna be paying the money, not him. And they can't get out of the contract, right? Or they'll get hit with a WTO, like trade, blah, blah, blah. You cancel the contract, you have to pay for our losses, whatever. And they figured out a way to guarantee their profits while denying all liability. And a vaccine is not like a drug for erectile dysfunction where it's like, 1 million people, 2 million people. It's something that even if 4 people got measles, we need to give 100 billion people the measles vaccine, right? And they just scare the shit out of you and force you to get these vaccines. And the problem is lawsuits. They're getting so many lawsuits over the polio vaccine and this tetanus vaccine. They got so many lawsuits over the swine flu vaccine. And then they just don't tell the media, don't talk about the lawsuits. It's safe, 100% safe. But then they get 2 million lawsuits and they say there's no danger. No, all the vaccines are 100% safe and they've always been safe. But ignore those ignore those $20 billion in lawsuits we got.
Yeah.
And you look at some of these companies, and I looked at the number of lawsuits, and one of these companies had like 2 million lawsuits or something. And I'm like, 2 million lawsuits? Like what the hell?
Yeah.
So so the UK government is going to give these companies the money. They're going to keep the money, and they're not going to release a vaccine. I watch this video 4 years from now, I 100% guarantee. It's it's a scam.
Okay, well, I don't mind if they don't give out the vaccines. Okay, fine. Keep the money. Don't put aluminium and other nasties into my bloodstream or my children's bloodstream. Don't want that.